revealed how a 20 job to sabotage a date led to an incredible love story with a millionaire CEO. In the heart of a modest Midwestern city, Jamie's world was a whirlwind of laughter and struggle. Every day was a balancing act, juggling 2 jobs while raising her spirited daughter, Lily. The two lived in a cozy little house, surrounded by neighbors who had become family. Each evening, as Jamie tucked Lily into bed, she dreamed of a better life, fueled by love and the promise of possibility. But dreams were just that, dreams, all too often out of reach. One warm afternoon, while wiping down tables at the diner, Jamie's childhood friend, Ben, proposed an idea that raised an eyebrow. A 20 job to sabotage a date. Not just any date, the blind date of a wealthy CEO named Ethan, who Jamie believed represented everything wrong with the world. Dan had a good heart, but he was always getting into trouble with his pranks. "Come on, Jamie. Just this once. Teach him a lesson about privilege," he chuckled. But Jamie was skeptical. As the sun set and painted the sky orange, Jamie felt a mix of determination and conflict brewing inside her. She wanted to show Ethan that money couldn't buy happiness or love. But in the back of her mind lingered the thought, was it right to ruin someone's night, even if he was wealthy? With a tight chest and the thrill of excitement, she prepared for the night ahead. The echoes of laughter from children playing outside filled her with hope. She was their fierce protector. After all, the diner had a way of feeling welcoming, with the smell of freshly baked pie in the air. Jamie could hear her neighbors chatting about their lives, sharing the warmth and resilience that made her community so special. She wanted to fight for a better tomorrow for her and Lily, while also hoping that maybe, just maybe, she could strike a blow against the barriers of wealth. As she arrived at the restaurant, the atmosphere sparkled with glitzy chandeliers overhead, and the soft murmur of conversations filled the room. Just as Jamie steeled herself ready to execute her plan, she caught Ethan's eye, a tall, handsome figure with laughter lines etched into his face. A bolt of unexpected electricity pulsed through her. Could he really be as terrible as she imagined? Before she could follow through on her plan, they locked eyes, and something shifted. "You look familiar," Ethan said, catching her off guard. Time seemed to freeze. All her preconceived notions about him fell away in that moment, revealing a lonely man who seemed just as trapped as she was, wading through expectations and judgments. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jamie contemplated pulling the rug out from under her previous intentions, chaos erupted. A commotion at the bar drew attention, and a witness misinterpreted Jamie's reaction as sabotage. Gossip spread like wildfire in their small town, and before she knew it, her plan threatened to backfire. Suddenly, Ethan found himself caught in a storm of judgments and whispers, perpetuating the divide they both sought to bridge. As the night unraveled, Jamie and Ethan bore the brunt of misunderstandings, and in their midst, honest conversations sparked between them. They shared moments of vulnerability beyond the confines of wealth and hard work, forcing them to confront their biases. Just when Jamie received a fateful call, one that could reshape everything she fought for, Ethan stood there, bewildered, wondering if their connection might pierce through the world of privilege and pain they had both known. Would she embrace their unexpected bond, or follow through on her misguided scheme that had brought them together in the first place? The tension hung in the air, thick and palpable. Jamie could hardly breathe as her phone vibrated in her pocket, the sound seeming to echo through the luxurious restaurant. The call was from her boss at the diner, a request for her to come in early the next morning. But in that moment, it felt like something much bigger, the tether to the life she had been struggling to make work. Ethan's bright blue eyes searched hers, a mix of confusion and curiosity swirling in their depths. "What is happening, Jamie?" he asked, a genuine note of care in his voice that sent a rush of warmth through her. His concern made her heart race. Maybe just this once, she could be honest about her struggles. "Just things are complicated," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "I can't explain everything now. I didn't expect, she paused, biting back the wave of vulnerability crashing inside her. I didn't expect to meet someone like you tonight. He stepped closer, the scent of his cologne, the sharpness of cedarwood mixed with something fresher wrapped around her, anchoring her chaos. I didn't expect to meet someone like you either, Jamie. His words lingered, creating a space filled with possibility. But just as a connection seemed to blossom, the waitress approached with a tray full of drinks. The clinking glasses broke the spell, bringing Jamie back to reality. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was a blind date gone completely off the rails. Yet here they were, two people from different worlds realizing they had more in common than they both knew. I don't want to judge you, Ethan, Jamie confessed, the weight of her own prejudice pressing down. I thought you were just another privileged CEO. A shadow crossed his face. I get it, he said softly. People see me as the rich guy, and they don't look deeper. He looked around the room, as if searching for understanding among the glittering walls. But I feel stuck too. Sometimes, wealth feels like it builds walls instead of tearing them down. His vulnerability struck her, making her heart ache. This was a man shaped by experiences his own struggles were buried beneath layers of societal expectations. They were both fighting against stereotypes, trying to connect in a world that often stacked the odds against them. Just then, a table nearby erupted in laughter, breaking the moment. Jamie couldn't help but glance over. The laughter felt hollow, contrasting sharply with the rawness they just shared. Feeling the heat rising in her cheeks, Jamie realized how vital it was to break away from the judgments they both carried. I have to come clean, Ethan, Jamie said suddenly, her heart pounding with urgency. This date, it was supposed to be a joke. I was hired to sabotage your night. But instead, I want to learn about you. Can we start over? He smiled, genuine and warm. I believe we can. But let us do it honestly. No pretenses, no sabotage. Just two people getting to know each other. As she nodded, Jamie felt an unfamiliar hope kindling in her chest. Perhaps this could be her chance at something real. But a knot of fear gripped her. What would it take to bridge the gap between their two worlds? And more importantly, would she have the courage to fully step into this new reality? Before she could voice her questions, the restaurant door swung open violently. A figure burst in, and all eyes turned to the commotion. In that instant, Jamie's heart sank, dread pooling in her stomach. The night was far from over, and everything she feared could soon become a reality. Who was this new arrival, and how would they impact her blossoming connection with Ethan? The sudden swing of the door sent a gust of chilly air through the restaurant, causing Jamie's skin to prickle with unease. A man stood in the doorway, panting and disheveled, his eyes darting wildly across the room. He was a stark contrast to the polished ambience, his casual attire seeming out of place among the dressed-up patrons. "Where is he?" the man shouted, and all heads turned, whispers breaking out like wildfire. Jamie felt her heart hammering against her ribs. Ethan's expression shifted, confusion turning to concern. "What is going on?" he murmured, not taking his eyes off the intruder. "I need to find Ethan Daniels," the man bellowed. "It's urgent." Her stomach twisted at the implication. Did this stranger know Ethan? Or was something more sinister at play? Jamie could only watch as Ethan slowly stood, eyebrows furrowed. "Who are you?" Ethan responded, his voice steady. Jamie marveled at how composed he remained, even in the face of chaos. The man rushed forward, seemingly oblivious to the shocked faces around them. "Ethan, it's about your father. There's been an accident." A cold shiver rippled through Jamie. Ethan's father? The sudden shift in his demeanor was palpable, as if the vibrant energy around him dimmed instantly. He looked as if he had been struck, confusion giving way to fear. "What do you mean?" Ethan pressed, the calm of his tone battling the rising tide of panic. "I can't explain here. Just come with me." The man's urgency turned frantic, his breath sharp and jagged. "I can't just leave," Ethan protested, glancing at Jamie, who felt stuck in a paralysis of emotions. What should she do? She barely knew this man, yet a bond had begun to form, a bond that now felt fragile and threatened. As he turned back to the commotion, a small part of her wished he wouldn't go. But this was his family, his world. "Ethan," she said finally, her voice barely a whisper, "you need to go." It sounds serious. His gaze pierced hers, seeking reassurance or maybe guidance. The weight of the moment crushed down on her. She knew he had to choose. and part of her dreaded where this path would lead him. "I'll come back," he promised, looking almost desperate to cling to their connection. With a shallow nod, Ethan allowed the man to pull him toward the door. As they exited, Jamie fought a swell of uncertainty. Her heart ached with the abruptness, with the thoughts of what lay outside that restaurant. Truths she didn't know were about to unravel as the door slammed behind them. Silence enveloped the space. The laughter around the restaurant seemed distant, like echoes from another world. Jamie could feel the weight of her own decision looming. She had taken a risk tonight by being honest, and that risk had somehow started to crack open a door to her future. But now? Now, she was left with questions. What if Ethan didn't come back? The thought made her stomach churn. As she sat there, the chatter of the other tables vanished. It was just her and the uncertainty stretching before her. She didn't even know what she wanted anymore. Did she want to protect her heart, or risk it in the hopes of something wonderful? And within that whirlwind of emotions, a surge of determination sparked. She couldn't just sit here waiting. Jamie stood up, the decision clear in her mind. She would find him. She needed to know how it would end. With every step toward the door, the gravity of possibility pulled her close. Would she face the harsh realities of Ethan's world, or dive headfirst into something extraordinary? The answer was just outside, waiting for her to uncover it. As she pushed through the door, the night air hit her like a wave. But before she could even take a breath, she spotted Ethan up ahead, his silhouette tense. He was speaking to the disheveled man, a gravity in his movement that sent a shiver of apprehension through her. What's waiting for them just ahead? And what truth would they confront together? Jamie's heart raced as she darted across the pavement, each step bringing her closer to Ethan and the man who seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. The night air, previously invigorating, felt thick with tension. She could see Ethan gesturing animatedly, his face a mix of fear and determination. "Ethan," she called out, her voice breaking through the night's stillness. He turned. The look in his eyes, raw and scared, sent a shock through her. She pushed past the disbelief swirling in her head. He needed her support now more than ever. The disheveled man glanced at her, surprise flickering across his features before returning to his urgent demeanor. "Who is she?" he asked, breathless. She's important to me," Ethan replied, his voice firm yet trembling. That simple acknowledgement knotted her stomach with hope and fear. "Your father needs you. We need to go now," the man urged, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting trouble. Jamie straightened, locking eyes with Ethan, trying to convey strength through the chaos. "Ethan, please, just tell me what's happening," she said, her voice steadying, even as her heart thudded. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I can't leave my family, Jamie. Not now." The rapid rhythm of his heart beat in time with the jittering nerves inside her. "Then let me come with you," she said, a plea wrapped in determination. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." The weight of her offer hung heavy in the air. Ethan seemed torn as he glanced back at the man. "I don't know if this is safe. Better together than apart," she insisted, bringing a hand to his arm, grounding him amidst the storm. The man's eyes softened slightly, perhaps understanding the unspoken bond they shared. "Fine, but stay close. This isn't just an accident," he spoke tersely, urgency edging into his tone. Jamie nodded, her stomach twisting tighter. "What do you mean?" As they moved, the shadows deepened around them as they hurried toward a nearby parking lot. The man hadn't shared the details, but the gravity of the moment whispered of something far more serious than mere accident. "What happened?" Jamie pressed again, her voice quiet yet firm as they approached the nondescript car parked under a flickering streetlight. The man turned. "There was a fall at the construction site where your father works," he admitted, his voice low. "Ethan, your dad was at the center of it." Ethan's face blanched. "How bad is he?" "Bad enough that they're saying he might not make it," the man replied, expression grave. "We need to get to the hospital." As the man slid into the driver's seat, Jamie felt a surge of emotion sweeping over Ethan. It wasn't just fear, it was anguish. She slid in beside him to catch the turmoil in his gaze, ready to act as a sounding board for whatever storm was about to hit them. What if he? Ethan hesitated, swallowing hard. What if I lose him? The vulnerability raw on his face tugged at her heartstrings. "You won't lose him. We'll be there. You'll see him, and you can say what you need to say." He grasped her hand tightly, finding grounding in her presence as the car roared to life and pulled into the night. The anticipation hung heavily, mixing with the promise of unforeseen revelations as they sped toward the unknown. Jamie wondered about the secrets Ethan carried and how this night would redefine not just him, but their budding relationship. And in that heart-stopping moment, she understood that love often stepped in during the darkest of times, even as tragedy loomed ahead. What awaited them at the hospital? Would Ethan's father survive, or would their lives change forever? The car raced through the empty streets, fluorescent lights flickering past like fractured memories. Jamie sat shoulder to shoulder with Ethan, his fingers tightly intertwined with hers. She could sense the chaos swirling in his thoughts, the way his eyes haunted the darkened windows, searching for answers outside that he didn't know existed within. "What's going through your mind?" she dared to ask, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with urgency and a vulnerability that mirrored his. He glanced at her, torn between the weight of his fears and the warmth of her support. "I keep thinking about all the things we never said. I was supposed to see him tomorrow. We had plans." The words hung in the air, heavy with sorrow. Jamie felt the lump in her throat, her heart aching for him. She didn't have the right words to soothe the tempest raging within him, but she squeezed his hand tighter, imparting her strength. "It's not too late. You can still tell him everything," she reminded him gently. Ethan let out a shaky breath, his brow furrowing deeper. "What if he doesn't wake up?" The fear in his voice cut through Jamie like a knife. "Then you fight to make sure he does," she replied, steering the conversation toward hope. "You let him know how much he means to you." As the car turned a corner, the hospital came into view, illuminated against the dark sky like a beacon of light amid despair. Jamie's breath caught in her throat, the air suddenly thick with the reality that loomed ahead. She glanced at Ethan and saw the flicker of determination fighting through the fear. They pulled up in front of a grand entrance, and the man behind the wheel turned toward them, urgency souring his expression. "Stay close, and whatever happens, stay strong." Ethan nodded, gratitude flickering in his eyes before they both stepped out into the chill of the night. The stark white of the hospital loomed before them, a reminder of fragility and life's unpredictable nature. As they entered, a wave of antiseptic air enveloped them, mingling with the distant sounds of medical equipment that beeped like clockwork. The waiting area was bleak and sterile, painted in pale hues that did nothing to soothe the apprehension swirling within. They approached the reception desk, and Jamie's heart raced as she watched Ethan's face. It was a mixture of desperation and hope, as if he were preparing himself for battle. "Excuse me," Ethan said, his voice steady but tight. "I'm here for my father, Mark Harper. Can you tell me where he is?" The receptionist broke the news in a low tone, and Jamie held her breath, fearing the impact of the words that could change everything. She caught the flicker of panic in Ethan's eyes as he listened, the moment stretching longer than it should. "Room 214, the receptionist finally said, her tone neutral. Ethan nodded, but his gaze was distant, unfocused. Jamie tapped his arm gently. "We need to move." With a shared understanding, they walked toward the elevator, each step feeling like both a leap toward hope and an impending doom. As they entered, the metallic doors slid shut, sealing them in a small space that echoed their breaths. "Ethan, you can do this," she said, her voice a soft anchor in the swirling storm. That he took a deep breath, but she could see the cracks forming in his facade. "What if I can't handle it?" What if he paused, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears? "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." It was a promise, loud and clear amidst the quiet hum of the elevator. When the doors opened, they emerged into the fluorescent-lit corridor. Each step felt heavier, the sounds of an all-too-busy hospital amplifying Ethan's dread. Jamie held on to him tighter, recognizing the gravity of the moment that awaited. As they finally reached room 214 and paused outside the door, she could see the turmoil battling inside him. He wasn't just about to face his father. He was confronting all the unresolved feelings tied to family, love, and the fear of loss. Taking a breath, he opened the door, and they stepped inside. What they found would forever alter the course of their lives. Would Ethan's father still be the man he remembered? Would the shadows of unsaid words transform into a chance for healing, or would they echo into silence? Ethan paused at the threshold, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The room was dimly lit, and the beeping machines punctuated the silence, each beep intertwining with the sound of his breathing. Jamie squeezed his hand again, grounding him as they crossed the threshold together. Inside, the scent of antiseptic hung like an unwelcome guest, sticking to their lungs and reminding them of the harsh reality of the moment. The figure on the bed was frail, dwarfed by the sterile sheets that wrapped him like a cocoon. Mark Harper, Ethan's father, looked so different from the strong man Ethan once remembered. Age and illness had carved deep lines into his face, a stark contrast to the laughter that used to radiate from him. Calm, yet anxious, Ethan approached the bedside. He could hardly recognize the man who had once been a pillar of strength in his life. He whispered his father's name, "Dad," but the word barely left his lips, hanging in the air, fragile as glass. Mark's eyes fluttered open, confusion washing over him before they landed on Ethan. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Ethan saw a flicker of recognition, and it made his heart swell, aching simultaneously with longing and fear. Mark's voice was hoarse, strained, as if each word was a labor. "You came, of course I did," Ethan breathed, feeling the heat of unshed tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "I need to talk to you." Jamie shifted slightly, giving them space but not abandoning his side. She stayed close enough that he could feel her presence, a steadying force amid the turmoil. Mark blinked, trying to focus as if struggling to remember the boy who stood before him. "I'm sorry, I can't, it's okay," Ethan interjected, his voice firm. "Just take your time." There was so much he wanted to say, all the things he had held back during their last heated argument, all the love he wished he had expressed in moments that now felt like ancient history. "I miss you, Dad," he finally said, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. "I want us to fix this. I want you to know I love you." Mark's eyes glistened with moisture, and for an agonizing second, Ethan feared his father might slip back into unconsciousness. Instead, Mark reached for Ethan's hand, his grip weak, yet sincere. "I'm sorry, son, for everything. I never meant to push you away." The admission held weight, breaking the invisible barrier between them. Ethan's breath caught as he realized they might be standing at the precipice of something sacred, a chance to heal wounds that had festered for too long. "Can we start over?" Ethan pressed, a swell of hope rising within him. The urgency was palpable. They were not guaranteed tomorrow. Mark nodded slowly, tears pooling in his eyes. "If you'll let me." Just then, the door creaked open again, and a nurse stepped in, disrupting the bittersweet moment. She scanned the room, taking in the scene with a professional, yet compassionate glance. "I just need to check his vitals," she announced, her presence a reminder of the harsh reality they faced. As she moved around the room, marking the time with her operations, Ethan felt the fragile moment slipping from his grasp. Jamie shifted closer, silently urging him to stay grounded. Once the nurse stepped out, Ethan turned back to his father. "We can't waste any more time, Dad. I need to know everything. I need to know you." Mark opened his mouth to respond, but his breath caught as he struggled against a wave of emotions. Before he could speak, an alarm blared from the machines beside him. Panic surged through the air, slicing away the heartwarming moment. Ethan's eyes widened in fear. "What is happening?" "Stay calm," Jamie said, her voice steady and strong. But as the medical team rushed in, Ethan felt reality crashing down around him. The words he wanted to say could be lost in the blink of an eye. Mark's eyes met his, filled with a silent urgency, as if he, too, sensed the fragility of their time together. Would this moment be their last chance? Would he finally be able to uncover the truth behind the man who had shaped so much of his life? Ethan held his breath, waiting for the answer, hoping against hope that this would be goodbye. The scene unfolded like a flash before his eyes. Would they emerge unscathed, or would the shadows of their past remain forever unspoken? Ethan's heart raced as the medical team bustled into the room, urgency flowing from their every action. The sharp beeping of the machines transformed into an ominous chorus, drowning out everything else. He felt Jamie's grip tighten on his hand, her eyes wide, sharing in his rising panic. The world outside the room faded away, leaving only this critical moment filled with uncertainty. "Sir, can you step back?" A nurse called out, her voice cutting through the chaos with authority. Ethan stood frozen. No, please, I need to stay with him. His voice trembled, filled with fear. Ethan, you have to let them do their job, Jamie urged gently, her eyes pleading. But his father's gaze filled with pain, confusion, urgency anchored him to the spot. With a strained breath, Ethan reluctantly stepped aside, the space between him and Mark feeling more like a chasm. Stay with me, Dad, he whispered, fighting back tears. Mark's face rippled with effort. He wanted to respond, but the medical staff was already working, pushing him to respond to the alarming beeps of the machines. They swapped out 4 bags, adjusted the monitors, and called for more assistance. One of the doctors locked eyes with Ethan, and in that tense moment, Ethan felt something shift. The doctor's eyes were serious but reassuring, as if saying everything will be okay. Time seemed to slow down. They worked, calculated and expert, while Ethan's mind spiraled into memories of laughter around the dining table and baseball games filled with joyous moments. Come back to me, Dad. Please, he felt Jamie's hand slip from his as she joined the medical team, not as a source of comfort to Ethan, but as someone who could help. It brought him a modicum of relief. The chaos adapted to a rhythm, a dance of urgency. As the minutes ticked by, Ethan braced himself. I need to tell you everything, he urged Mark, who still lay so frail. I can't lose you. Then the beeping changed from blaring alarms to a steady rhythm. Like music finding its harmony, the room collectively sighed. He watched as the doctors worked to stabilize Mark, holding tight to the tiny glimmers of hope blooming deep within him. All right, we have him stable for now, the doctor finally announced, speaking as much to Ethan as to the team around him. But we have to keep monitoring him closely. I need you to stay calm, okay? Can I see him? Ethan asked breathlessly, the weight lifting just slightly. For now, yes. Just give him some space to breathe, the doctor replied. Quickly, Ethan moved back to his father's bedside. Mark's eyes fluttered open again, heavy with fatigue, but there was clarity and a spark of life that hadn't been there moments before. I'm here, Dad, Ethan spoke softly, squeezing Mark's hand gently. You made it. We're okay for now. Mark nodded weakly, tears escaping his eyes. I didn't want you to see me like this. His voice was barely a whisper. Just talk to me, Ethan urged. I want to know everything. He took a breath, steadying himself. About Mom and the real you. A faint smile broke through the haze of illness on Mark's face, but it was tempered by the shadows of a life not yet lived together. The chance to bridge that gap hung tantalizingly close. As they locked eyes, Ethan sensed the looming weight of history pressing around them, begging to be released. He knew this was the moment they had both been waiting for. But before Mark could respond, an unexpected noise erupted from the door. A figure stepped in, the recognition igniting a surge of emotions in Ethan's chest. Ethan, the newcomer said, voice firm but edged with anxiety. We need to talk. Ethan's blood ran cold. There was no preparation for what was about to be revealed. The fragile thread of their dialogue snapped with the intrusion, and the looming question lingered. Was this news another roadblock in their path to connection, or could it unleash the truth that had been hidden for too long? Ethan's heart thudded in his chest. He turned to see who had entered, every muscle in his body tensing. The silhouette looming in the doorway was familiar, but his mind struggled to process the implications. What do you mean we need to talk? Ethan stammered, his voice laced with a mix of dread and urgency. The newcomer, a tall figure with tousled hair and anxious eyes, stepped further into the room, casting a glance at Mark, who was still trying to catch his breath. I know this isn't the time the figure began, lowering their voice as if to keep the conversation secret even in the open space. But I have information about your father that you need to hear. No, not now, Ethan shot back, anger and frustration bubbling up within him. My dad just stabilized. Can't this wait? He looked back at Mark, feeling the weight of the moment slip away. The connection they were building was too fragile to let this interruption shatter it. Ethan, please, Jamie chimed in, stepping beside the newcomer. Her eyes were filled with concern, but there was something else there too, determination. This could change everything. You need to hear what they have to say. The newcomer shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Mark before finally speaking again. Your father, he has been keeping secrets, and I think they're catching up to him now. Secrets? Ethan's voice broke. What kind of secrets? Mark's hand twitched at his side, and Ethan instinctively held it tighter. You have to realize that Mark won't be here forever. If he is hiding something, you need to know so you can prepare for whatever comes next. I only came because they hesitated, their voice wavering. Why are you doing this? Ethan pressed, pushing aside the panic. He wanted to focus, to keep the chaos from overtaking him. Because I care about him, the newcomer replied, their voice unexpectedly softening. And I care about you too. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important. Ethan took a breath, trying to quell the mix of emotions swirling within him. Every instinct told him to protect his father, not to let anyone interfere, but there was a gnawing curiosity whispering in the back of his mind. What could be so urgent that it warranted this revelation, especially now? Okay, he said finally, scarcely recognizing the resigned tone in his voice. Talk, but make it quick. The newcomer stepped closer, lowering their voice. There are events in your father's past, things he hasn't shared with you. They could put him in danger beyond what you see here. He has been involved in something he never wanted you to know about. Ethan's stomach churned. What do you mean? Years ago, Mark made choices to protect you both, but those choices are coming back. There are people who want answers, and they stop at nothing to get them. As the weight of the revelation settled over him like a heavy blanket, Ethan's mind raced. Thoughts of family dinners, road trips, and laughs began to mix with shadows of a past he couldn't grasp. Why didn't he tell me? Why keep this from me? He demanded, feeling the foundations of his world shake beneath him. Before the newcomer could respond, a loud crash echoed outside the hospital room, an unmistakable sound full of chaos. The tension in the air shifted abruptly, replaced by urgent whispers and hurried footsteps. Ethan's eyes darted to the door, panic rising again. What was that? Stay back, the newcomer warned, but the door swung open further, and several hospital staff members rushed in. Ethan's heart sank deeper. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the truths hidden between him and Mark. There was imminent danger creeping closer as the walls around their fragile connection threatened to close in. What is happening? He shouted, a sense of dread clouding his thoughts. We need to get you both out of here, the newcomer replied, their tone now urgent, on the brink of panic. Ethan's pulse raced. Would he even have time to learn about the man his father really was before everything changed forever? And in that moment, a singular question loomed in the air. Was this the beginning of a revelation or the end of everything he thought he knew? Ethan's heart raced as he stood rooted to the spot, trying to process the flurry of bodies entering the room. Nurses and aides rushed past him, their faces intent and hurried, voices blending into a ghostly echo. Panic gnawed at his insides, the fear of losing Mark dragging him back to the dark recesses of his mind. Ethan, come on. Jamie's voice cut through the chaos, grabbing his attention. We need to move now. She reached out, her hand tight on his wrist, pulling him closer. What about my dad? Ethan protested, looking back at Mark, who was now being examined by medical staff. Anxiety prickled in his throat as he felt the distance between them widen. He wanted to scream, to hold on to that last flicker of hope, but the urgency in Jamie's eyes was undeniable. Trust me, we can't stay here, she insisted, her tone firm, yet there was an undercurrent of fear that sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. Reluctantly, he nodded, his mind racing as they stepped back from the chaos unfolding in the room. The newcomer watched him with a mixture of worry and determination. Their face was a mask of courage, urging Ethan to make a choice without knowing the full consequences of it. Just as they turned to leave, a shrill alarm pierced through the air, freezing everyone in their tracks. Ethan's stomach dropped as a cold dread washed over him. The sound echoed ominously, a siren calling out imminent danger. What is going on? He shouted over the noise, but no one had time to explain. Staff scrambled, and the room buzzed with frantic energy as the hospital's protocols kicked in. Ethan, Jamie grabbed him firmly. We can't wait. We need to go. Without waiting for another word, they bolted down the corridor. The hall felt like a labyrinth of sterile white walls and fluorescent lights flashing overhead. The sounds of hurried feet followed them, the urgency palpable in the air. Where are we going? Ethan gasped, trying to keep up. Jamie glanced back, eyes wide with fear. To the stairwell. It'll be safer than the elevators. She shouted, and panic slipped into her voice. Each footfall echoed dread in the back of his mind, and the unfamiliar corridors seemed to twist and turn, but following her felt like the only option left. Breathless, they reached the emergency exit. Jamie pushed the heavy door open, revealing a narrow stairwell that spiraled down into shadows. "Go," she urged, shoving Ethan forward. He moved as quickly as his feet could carry him, the gnawing worry for Mark clawing at his chest with every step. As they descended, an overwhelming thought echoed through Ethan's mind. His father was in danger more than he could comprehend. Secrets had built a wall between them, and now that very wall threatened to crush them both. Racing down the stairs, Ethan wrestled with the weight of it all. Could he really help Mark if he didn't even know what he was up against? Just when he thought they might escape, a loud thud reverberated from above, and the lights flickered ominously for a moment before stabilizing again. What was that? Jamie's voice shook, her grip on Ethan tightening. "I don't know," he replied, unease creeping in. "But we have to keep moving." Emerging from the stairwell, they found themselves in an empty hallway that led to a back exit. Ethan felt a mix of hope and fear, knowing freedom was just within reach, even as shadows lurked behind them. They stepped through the door, the night air washing over them like a promise of danger and the unknown. But before they could fully grasp their escape, a figure emerged from the darkness, blocking their path. Ethan's heartbeat picked up as he froze, instinctively stepping protectively in front of Jamie. "Ethan," the figure said softly, their voice an eerie mix of familiarity and menace. "We need to talk about your father." The revelation hung in the air, heavier than anything he'd faced before. The night felt like a tightrope stretched over an abyss, and it was moments away from breaking. What would this stranger reveal, and how would it change everything? Ethan's heart thundered in his chest as he faced the looming figure, panic clashing with curiosity. The stranger was no one he recognized, but there was an unsettling familiarity in their gaze. What do you mean about my father?" he demanded, his voice steadying as he found his grounding beside Jamie. The figure stepped forward, eyes locked on Ethan's. "I have to explain everything before it's too late. Secrets that might endanger not only him, but you too." The urgency was palpable, hanging like a storm cloud overhead. "What the hell does that mean?" Jamie interjected, her protective stance mirroring Ethan's. The stranger took a breath, a mix of fear and determination settling in. Mark was involved in something dangerous, financial dealings that drew the wrong kind of attention. "People are coming to get him, and I need your help." Ethan's mind reeled, trying to wrap itself around the implications. "You expect me to trust you? How do I know you're not just another problem? I was part of the team that worked with him. I'm trying to help you both." The sincerity in the stranger's voice chipped away at Ethan's doubts. "We don't have time. He's basically running on borrowed time." Jamie's eyes darted back to Ethan, fear mounting in her expression. "Ethan, we have to make a choice. Do we take a chance or go back? We might not have another shot." Ethan swallowed hard, weighing the options. "Where do we go?" "Follow me," the stranger urged. But before they could move, the buzz of voices and quick footsteps echoed from the entrance of the hospital. "Come on," Jamie urged again, pulling on Ethan's arm. He looked back at the figure. "You coming?" "Yeah, I'm coming," they replied, urgency creeping into their tone as the door opened. They slipped out into the night, shadows merging with uncertainty as they sprinted across the parking lot, hearts racing like a Brooklyn subway train. They split up among the parked cars, seeking refuge in the anonymity of the night. The distant sirens blared, tensions rising with every heartbeat. "Where now?" Ethan panted, his breath hitching as he glanced around, eyes on the darkened streets. "To my place. It's safe for now," the stranger said quickly. They led the way, weaving through the winding streets of the city, suddenly feeling like an urban adventure turned nightmare. As they ducked into an alley, Jamie pulled Ethan close. "We're doing this together, right? Whatever comes next." "Together," he reaffirmed, holding her hand tight as they pressed on, fear still crackling in the night air. When they reached the stranger's residence, a modest apartment dwelling, they stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind them. The darkness settled, muffling the chaos of sirens and commotion outside. "Tell me what you haven't told me yet," Ethan urged, demanding answers from the stranger now that they were safe for just a moment. Mark has had business rivals that haven't taken his previous decisions lightly. They want revenge. He thought he could deal with it without putting you in danger, they explained, urgency overpowering every word. But now those decisions have led to this. Ethan felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. What do you mean this? What am I supposed to do? You need to confront him. Help him resolve this, the stranger insisted, and Ethan felt clarity burst like a light in the darkness. He turned to Jamie, sincerity shining in his eyes. We have to go back. He needs to know we're behind him. Not just for today, but for whatever comes next. Jamie nodded, her face determined. Right. We're family, after all. Whatever happens, we face it together. With the stranger leading them back toward the hospital, Ethan felt a surge of hope. It wasn't just about confronting his father anymore. It was about facing the unknown risks together, united by the strength of love and the undeniable bond they had created. Arriving at the hospital again, the scene was eerily calm, the alarms silent, and the fluorescent lights buzzing softly. The tension in the air felt almost sacred as they approached. Ethan dared to pause for a breath before entering. Whatever happens inside, we fight for each other, okay? Always, Jamie replied, her grip steady against the fluttering nerves. Pushing the door open, they entered Mark's room once more, his frail body appearing at rest amid the beeping machines. Mark's eyes fluttered open, searching until they landed on Ethan's familiar face. The ghost of warmth flickered in the air. Mark struggled to speak, words tumbling from his lips like last leaves in autumn. You came back. I never left, Ethan said, his voice firm and unwavering. But we need to talk. Everything you've been hiding, it affects us all. I want to know the truth, Dad. A heaviness pressed down, desperation hanging in the air like fog. Mark's expression shifted, clouds of guilt melding with recognition. I've kept you in the dark, thinking I was protecting you, Mark croaked, searching for his son's unwavering gaze. But it's now or never. And as the layers of secrets began to peel away, finally revealing the hidden truths, Jamie stood steadfast beside Ethan, their hands clasped tightly. At that moment, more than ever, they understood the power of resilience, love, and connection. For they were bound not just by blood or shared history, but by the courage to face whatever the future held. Together, this was their moment, a bridge built from fears once left unspoken, leading toward the promise of family and hope that blossomed even in the darkest times. Now, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you and others. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a huge difference. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread the incredible power of love and resilience.